Thrive is made possible by the Miracle Channel family and their generous donations.
Wherever there's an incredible value for others, a love for others, that is where people just thrive.
Hey everyone, welcome to Thrive. So good to have you here today. You know, today's a special episode. We've got Pastor Kelly Stickel joining us, but before I get into that, I want to remind you, we are nationwide across the country for the first time since the beginning of Miracle Channel. This is a huge miracle, and so I want to say welcome to the East Coast. It's so good for you guys to be joining us. If you don't know who I am or what we're doing, we are a charity called the Miracle Channel, and this is a daily live show called Thrive, where we talk God's Word, wrestle with concepts, hopefully iron sharpening iron, and kind of raising the bar for what it means to be a Christian, getting to a place in the Word where you use it daily. You get to a place where you feel recharged, and that's what we love. It's a half-hour show. You can set a reminder to join us every single day. We're live Monday to Friday. Make sure you join us. You'll notice there's also a number on your screen, and that number is so that you can connect with us. You can ask for prayer. You can also make a donation to become a Miracle Channel donor and allow this to continue to grow, continue to go further and further. Something you'll notice we'll talk about in almost every one of our shows, because it means so much to us and it's so practical, is our devoted devotional, and you can get that for free. It's paid for by donors. You can call someone right now, let them know you want it. You can get it digitally or the paper copy, so make sure you do that. I promise you, when you read it, you will be blown away at how practical it is. We are seeing tens of thousands of people read it every single day around the planet, and it's just awesome. I think we've got some 70,000 people down in South America reading it every single day. We get a huge response from them. It's just awesome to see where it's going and the impact of believers getting in God's Word. So today, we've got Pastor Kelly Stickel joining David and I. Welcome, Pastor Kelly.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Jeremy, as always. David, good to see you again.
Good to have you, man. I always want your words and wisdom.
For sure.
There you go. Yeah.
Never get enough of you, man.
Yeah, you've been in our lives for a long time.
Yes,
a
long time. Yeah.
You're, for those who don't know, we've been kind of connected in ministry for, with our father-in-law, Leon Fontaine, for almost 20 plus years.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's been a while.
And almost 30 years, I think. And which is wild. And so there's always been a connection, I think, with our family and yours, and your ministry and our ministry, and we've just always been connected. It's been very, very cool to kind of see the synergy of that. And when in reading your book, I just felt that even more so. Like in going through your book and seeing the thoughts, it very much felt aligned. You were saying that Zach, our brother-in-law, was reading it, and he was like, man, that's crazy how much align with our two worlds. And that's exactly how I feel too.
So many discussions around that topic with Pastor Leon and over the years, and back into the banter back and forth. So when Zach said, man, this sounds a lot like my dad, I was like, it probably is a lot of your dad.
Probably heard it over the years as you're going through it.
I almost spilled my water. I was like, yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, you're right. Now, for those of you, we already did an episode last week, so make sure you go back and watch that, because I want to jump a little bit deeper into a few of the concepts, because this book is, it covers a wide variety of topics, all surrounded on the same idea about our job as believers and Christians. So make sure after this show you go back and watch it. Something that I wanted to talk to you about is a number of things, actually, and I'll start it off with actually our daily devotional. Our daily devotional for today is starts from this verse, and I noticed actually on the exact page I asked you to open up to before we started was the same verse. That's today's devoted devotional. So I'll read it and then I'll ask your thoughts on it. It says Matthew 5:14, verse 16 in the NLT. This version is slightly different than what the book mentions. And it says, You are the light of the world, like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden. In the same way, let your good deeds shine out of for all to see, so that everyone will praise your heavenly Father. And that verse is like so beautifully kind of teasing the entire idea of what this book's all about. And you went on to talk about even further about the basket. Can you explain that thought?
So it's fascinating, because that verse is taken, of course, out of the Sermon on the Mount. Yeah. So Jesus' very first public sermon. Yeah. This is where he goes to. Like he goes to. He looks at his audience and he goes, "You are the light of the world." Mm-hmm. Right, which is a mandate, and I love the analogy of the metaphor of a light, because again, the devil metaphor is darkness, and what I love about that is darkness has no power in and of itself. It can't smother light at all. Mm-hmm. Totally. Darkness is only the absence of light. Yeah. Which then you take it and say, well, this big bad world, and I hear Christians say this all the time, like it's the big bad world's going to hell in a handbasket, and its darkness is growing, all this kind of stuff. Just can't wait till we get out of here. And I'm like, no, wait, Jesus told us, you are the light.
Be the light that
be the light,
back.
right? So if the world is getting darker, that means that we're not shining. Like because that's the mandate Jesus gave us, to be the light of the world.
Yeah, it says more about you than it does about anything else. You are not shining.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if your workplace is dark, if your neighborhood is dark, darkness doesn't have the power.
Yeah.
It's the absence of light. So how do we get light in? And that's the entire vision of our church, and what we're doing is Kingdom Come is we're going to bring the light. We're going to find darkness and bring the light. The basket that you're talking about is I think it's the NIV translation says, don't hide that light under a basket. And I've said to our church, I was like, that basket is, in my opinion, that Jesus is talking about is the church. It's our church buildings where we bring and shine the light of, we want more. If we just have revival in here, if we just have more of Spirit in here, if we just have more, and we can bring God in here and into the basket, then it's going to be great. But under the basket, like Jesus is saying, don't keep it hidden. It's supposed to be for the entire world. Your deeds are supposed to flow out of the basket into the world. Don't keep it hidden there. Its purpose is not in here. The purpose is always out.
And you are, that's not an easy thing to say as a senior pastor of a church.
No.
You know what I mean?
Definitely.
That is literally what you do. So you have two things about you. You're the senior pastor of Parallel Church, also the CEO of My City Care.
Yes.
And so both of those things kind of are amazing in what you guys are doing. Every time I talk to you and find out what God's doing and the favor you guys are experiencing, it's so obvious that God is moving there and you guys are doing great work. And I love that. But that's it's an uncomfortable thing to say in the line of work of you being a senior pastor.
Yeah, so as a senior pastor, I'm telling people, get out of here, and the church is still growing. Like, go figure.
Exactly. And that's exactly it. For those who maybe don't know, I didn't give you a chance, we're talking about his book called Let's Take Our Job Back. So you can get it downloaded on Audible, order it on Amazon. You can get the book anywhere. And I highly encourage you right now to take a moment and maybe just pull out your phone and order it right now. This is a book you won't regret reading, and I don't say that lightly. There's a lot of books out there, and there's not many great books out there. And as you read through this and go through it, you will, I guarantee you, feel your kind of spirit kind of just light up, because I do believe that this is the way we're supposed to be in our everyday life. And so Pastor Kelly is beautifully and articulately walking us through that. So make sure you get the book. There was another thought I was going to ask you about, the favor. That's what I was going to ask you about how there's a verse in Isaiah you were talking about how when we step into this, that the favor of God is at our back.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of the scriptures talk about, the favor, the glory of the Lord going before you or ahead of you. And then Isaiah 58, which is a fascinating chapter or fascinating passage. Because it's, Isaiah 58:1 starts out ready, a prophet's writing this down, and he says, tell all the people about all their sin. And you're going, okay, here's the list of sin. I'm waiting for the regular Israel sin lineup, right? You intermarried, you took in idols, there's sexual immorality, there's worship of other gods, there's all this stuff going on. It's not listed there. It says, you've sought me, you've fasted, you've prayed, you've delighted in my ways. Pause. And I'm like, wait. Like, where's the sin part? And so then they respond, and a responsive type thing, and they're like, yes, we fast before you. How come you're not hearing? And then the rest of the passage goes on, because while you're fasting and praying, do you think that's the fasting I want? The fasting I want is when you see the hungry to feed them, when you see the naked clothe them, when you see the thirsty give them something to drink, take care of the needs. And he says, and then it goes on, it says, and if you do this, my glory will come behind you. And I was like, that verse jumped out at me when I read it.
That's Isaiah 58.
That's in Isaiah 58. And I was like, it kind of jumped out at me, because I was like, wow, because everywhere else it says the glory goes before you. And I was like, that which I'm comfortable with, but I was like, I've never really thought. I was like, wow, if I do this action, how I interpret this, and I don't know, but how I interpret this is if I'm in obedience and worship God by taking care of the least of these and walking with people loving on people, meeting needs, seeing a need and meeting a need, being a light in my city. Yeah. If I do that, then God's glory is, I don't need to ask God's permission of where I'm going, or I don't need to ask God's direction of where I'm going and His glory to lead me.
That's huge.
I can walk in this and know that His favor is going to come behind me. And I've got to be honest, like when we shifted our church in this direction and started doing this, I've literally felt like, this is too easy. This is so much favor. Yeah. There's these many opportunities. God's like, it just seems like one thing lines up for another to be able to happen, to be able to push this. I've never felt God's favor more on our church in 27 years of ministry, in ministry, as to when stepping out and doing this and feeling like God's actually pushing me. I feel like, okay, God, like, really, we want to step into this? Like, it's a fascinating promise.
So, well, one of the biggest things I loved when I was reading the book, because I read it a bit ago, and we've been having this language talk, and we've had a lot of conversations about this idea of consumerism that's entered the church, where it's been a pivot for a lot, and whether it's a modern thing or what's a Western Christian church thing, but this mentality of, what do I get out of Christianity?
Yeah.
Yep.
What can God do for me? And it's morphed into this whole mentality of, okay, God, I need something, so I'm going to connect with you. Or simply, God's there so I can have a good life according to how I define it. But I love what the book is. It's a complete shift, because I think it's an attack on that consumerism mentality.
Yes.
Where it's like, that's not the call of the gospel. That's not the call and the vision that God has for our lives, but it's to tap into what He is doing, to walk alongside. But we're actually the ones that are leading that. And you're saying, and I agree with this, God honors that. It's like, He says, too easy, His glory, His honor, His preparedness, making ways that like you can't make on your own. Things line. We were talking last week how it's just weird that some things just seem to be lining up and you can't put your finger on it.
Yep.
But it's because it's not about, God, what can I get out from you? It's, what can I actually do that you want me to do, and lead that action.
And really, this book is attacks exactly that consumer Christianity. And the reason why I put it out was like not to, it's not written in such a way where it's saying, hey, let's condemn everything else is wrong with the church. No, I love the church immensely.
You're building the church.
Yeah, building the church. This was a conviction on me personally, and going and what I've taught for years, and not really challenged in my own teaching, and realized that I've reduced, in a lot of ways, my Christianity to a weekly social gathering. And I got convicted as a pastor, where most of my budget and staffing, all the rest of it, went to a weekly social event, and putting all in that and growing that weekly social event, and going, have I reduced my Christianity to that? Got challenged by that when the government tried to shut down the weekly event. Yeah. And a lot of my pastor friends are going, they're shutting the church down. I was like, is that the church?
Is that the entirety of the church?
Is that the entirety of church? No. And then also realizing that I'm really emphasizing in my own life my personal devotion, my personal relationship with God, and going, but that's not all throughout the Bible, from Old Testament to New Testament, all throughout what Jesus is saying in His first message. You are the light. Go do good works. Like, don't keep your light hidden. Don't put it under a basket. Like, and that's His first message, and a challenge to go out there. And Isaiah saying, hey, I was waiting in Isaiah to see the list of sins of, like, this is what you've broken. And He's like, you seek me weekly, daily. Like, you're going to the temple, you're worshiping, you're praying, you're doing all the private things, and you're doing the service of Christianity, but you're not caring for your coworker. You're not caring for your family and member in need. You're not caring for your neighbor in need. And I was like, wait, oh man. I was like, if we did that as Christians, it changes the game, and it changes, and then the favor of God comes behind me. Wow.
That I just pulled up the verse here, and it's wild. If it says this, verse 10, Isaiah 58:10, if you pour yourself out for the hungry and satisfy the desire of the afflicted, then shall your lights rise in the darkness, and your gloom be as the noonday. And the Lord will guide you continually and satisfy your desire in scorched places and make your bones strong. And you shall be like a watered garden, like a spring of water whose waters do not fail.
Yeah.
Like, that's exactly what you're describing.
Absolutely. and the Lord will guide you continuously. So it's not wondering, God, where are you? Like all these things. It's like, if you do these things, and I was like, wow, okay.
It's crystal clear.
Crystal clear.
That's wild. How have we missed this? Do you have any insight on that? Like, how did we get this wrong?
So those are questions that led to the book, and so that's where I started going through history and went, okay, so when did we get this right, and where did we get off track, and why did we get off track, and how have we reduced this, and then realizing and recognizing, why are people putting so much hope in governments? That was another thing, right? And we've seen this. We talked about this last week about Christians putting so much hope in the election and the event of the election. We're like, why are we putting so much hope there? Well, part of it is at one time, the church started and ran all of the healthcare system. Yeah. It ran all of the education system. It ran all the social services in every society. It was all run by the church. Over the years, we've abdicated those responsibilities. We've abdicated healthcare to the government. We abdicated education to the government, and much social services to agencies or to the government to take care of. And with that, we also abdicated hope, right? So when people are looking for healthcare, they got to go to the government. When they look for education, they got to go to the government. When they're looking for social services, they got to go to the government. And going, well, that was our job, and now we've reduced our Christianity to just gatherings. Yeah. And our relevance and stopped meeting needs and going, realizing Jesus modeled this better than anybody. Whenever he entered a town, he met needs first, healed the sick, fed the hungry, cast out demons, do whatever needed to do, and then would preach and then taught. Yeah. And going, man, what if we took our job back? What if we did that? What if then hope would shift.
I remember
back to where it's
experiencing
supposed
this when I was younger. My church did the Alpha course. Yep. And the Alpha course was always done with dinner or food. Yep. And so they would cook food before. And man, did that bring in people. Yep. I brought in people that would never come to our church. Like, it was the church we went to was quite a small church. And I remember as like a 12-year-old boy being like, there's something here. You know what I mean? Give them food. And then they feel like they owe you almost. And they're like, I'll listen to you. Yep. And so they would eat while our pastor preached. And it was some of the most like amazing nights we ever had. Like, I remember having that little epiphany as a 12-year-old boy being like, this works. And I actually never tied that into like Jesus meeting the needs first and then teaching.
Well, I just had an atheist text me yesterday, or a friend who had an atheist girlfriend, hates God, hates church, all the rest of it. Somehow he got her to read my book. And her comment was, had I read this 10 years ago, I wouldn't be an atheist today.
I'd be a believer.
And I'd be a believer, and this is a God I could follow.
That's cool.
And this is the church I'd want to be a part of.
That's true, right?
And I was like,
it's amazing.
I was like, it suddenly becomes, Christianity suddenly becomes irresistible when we're doing it, playing the right tune and doing it the right way. The right way is designed.
I know, and that's something that we I don't know. I always find that I have to fight that internal battle of not the social gathering thing. It's a weird temptation that we have where it's like, hang out here and do this, but it's like you hear of a friend in a hospital or this. Like Leon, you would hear Leon say this all the time, is people would approach him being like, can you start a ministry for that? And he'd be like, can you be the ministry for it? Yeah. Go do it. You have a friend in the hospital, it's your friend and they're in the hospital. You should go visit them. Yes, we'll send a pastor, of course. Yep. Go be there for your friend and minister and do it. But it's weird how we have abdicated our responsibility. We've pushed it away. And we've got to get to a place where we bring it back and get used to doing it.
We should camp on that for a second, because I think a lot of people define their Christianity by the Sunday gathering. Yeah. Yep. I go to church, and Leon used to always joke, going to church on a Sunday doesn't make you any more of a Christian than going to McDonald's and it makes you a Big Mac. Yeah. Right? It's the same idea. Same idea. But people will equate their faith to their attendance at church, or I go once a week, and then the rest of the week is their own thing, their own time. Yeah. And there is obviously, we all build church, we all pastor. There's a place for Sundays or gatherings to come worship God, to be built up with faith. There's a whole thing for that. But that is supposed to propel you into your week to actually do the work of the ministry. Yeah. To actually go out, like what you're saying. But I, for some reason, it's been a slow build over the years.
It has been,
of training people, maybe unintentionally or whatever it was. Yeah. But this idea of, no, that's what makes me a Christian. That's where I go because I believe in Jesus. And you're arguing something a little bit different.
Well, imagine, because I looked at my job description as a pastor that Paul wrote in Ephesians, right? Is equip the saints to do the work of the ministry. It wasn't to be the minister or to do all the ministry. It was to equip or skill develop the saints to do the work of the ministry. And then imagine the writer of Hebrews having to write, because I know somebody's thinking this, well, it says in the, like, are you saying don't go to church? Not saying that at all. Like, go to church, but there's a purpose in that. Of course. Part of that is the equipping part of it. The other part of it, imagine, and I just had this thought of the writer of Hebrews, imagine the writer of Hebrews having to say, hey, don't forsake the gathering together. That's still important. Yeah. And we look at it and saying, well, that's like go to church. But imagine them, they were so focused in the community that they say, hey, don't forget all you're doing out there, don't forget to gather too. Because that wasn't what was vitally important to the early church. And going, no, we still need to gather for the encouragement, for the prayer, for the and for the equipping to be able to do what the ministry is. And the ministry doesn't happen under the basket.
Yeah.
I might even add something. I want to hear your thoughts on this, because I've been teaching a little bit lately on the idea of the royal priesthood. As Peter calls us, we are set apart, but you're a royal priesthood. He's picking up, obviously, on a lot of Old Testament ties with the Levi tribe and the role of the priesthood and how Israel was called, but they screwed it up. Then the tribe of Levi, and then you look at Melchizedek, and then Jesus, who was king and priest, and David. You go through this lineage, and Peter's referring to us as believers as the royal priesthood. I might even, and I've been playing around with the idea that when we go to church, it's not about us at all, actually.
Right.
We go to church to fulfill a role as a priesthood, to actually honor and worship and to bring glory to God as a gathering, which then, as again, propel you out to do the work of the ministry.
Right.
So even trying to spin that on its head a bit more for believers, when we go to church, we're going as the priesthood to offer acceptable sacrifices, to worship God first, not to go, what can I get out of it just to get my Christian fill? Absolutely. And I'm done. Any thoughts on that?
No, absolutely. And I do think, like, we go to worship, and even it's funny because in Isaiah 58, after he says, you seek me daily, you're praying, you're doing all these things, but you're not taking care of the needs around you. At the end of Isaiah 58, he says, but don't forsake the Sabbath.
Yeah.
Right? And you don't forsake that worship, because he's like, in all of your doing out there, it's almost like, let's just put it this way. We need to have, and Leon used to say this all the time too, like, we need to have a healthy vertical and horizontal relationship. Yeah. If we focus just on the vertical relationship, it's not gonna work. If we focus just on the horizontal relationships of one another, it's not gonna work. Yeah. And one feeds the other. John said that, right? Yep. You can't say you love God and hate your brother. Yep. Like, you can't disassociate, these ideas of people that are Christians are like, I'm gonna leave the church because I've been hurt by the church, and me and Jesus is all I need. Well, that doesn't work. If that worked, God didn't have to create Eve for Adam. Like he says, it's not good for man to be alone. Yeah. We need each other, but we don't exclude that relationship with God. So there is a priesthood relationship. There's also an ambassador responsibility that Paul gives us of being his representative in the world, and having that kingdom mindset. And that's where I spend a lot of time in the book. Section of the book is getting focused on the kingdom mindset, where in the West we don't truly understand how kingdoms work, because we live in democracies and different forms of governments and different things. So we don't fully grasp how a kingdom works, and the role of more than just the king, but the role of us and our representatives. And we need to have, in order to be proper ambassadors and represent him properly, we need to know him. And need to have a relationship with him, and need to serve as priests to him, so that we can serve as ambassadors to the world.
So what would you say then, very practically, for someone listening, what does an ambassador look like? What should they, like, how do they do it? If they're going to be like, all right, I want to do it, do I go and throw Jesus in their face? Or how do I start?
To answer, looking at the time and going, okay, here we go. We can fire this
47 seconds.
Read Isaiah 29. So the most famous verse pretty much in the Bible, Isaiah 29:11. I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, give you future and hope. The first 10 verses.
Jeremiah 29:11?
Yeah, Jeremiah 29:11.
Yeah, okay.
The first 10 verses in Jeremiah is God coming to them, in Babylon, in captivity. They've just been there. Yeah. And this is what he says. And I love this. He says, hey, you're going to be here a while, encouraging, right? He says, but while you're there, I want you to plant gardens. I want you to have children, have your children have children. I want you to prosper the city. As you prosper the city, I will prosper you, because I've got plans for you to give you a future and hope. And looking at what does an ambassador mean is while we're here on this earth, we prosper the city.
You own it,
We own it, we prosper it, because as we prosper that, God will prosper us. All this ties together. Isaiah 58, Jesus saying, be the light, go do all this, what the church did. And he says, as you prosper, while you're here, be an ambassador, prosper your workplace, prosper your neighborhood. It doesn't seem like a spiritual thing, but it's a highly spiritual thing. Because God's got good plans for us, and one day we're going to be with him, and he's going to say, hey, well done.
Well, and Leon had a book, The Spirit Contemporary Life, for those who don't know, and one of the entirety of the idea is to be spiritually alive, contemporary, and non-compromising, but real and relevant.
Yes.
And that's exactly the embodiment Jesus was everywhere he went.
Absolutely.
And they would follow him places, and he would in fact try to get quiet sometimes just because they were following him so much. But that's how attractive he was. And I think if there's anything I could encourage everybody to do is to be, prosperity is attractive. You know what I mean? When people are prosperous, not just financially, and everywhere. Like one of the prayers I pray in my family is prosperous in finances and social life and in our family life, like overflowing in all these areas. And that's attractive. When people actually get that, it's like you'll see them and be like, what do you have and how can I get there? It's like that's the way people looked at Jesus, and that's how we're supposed to be. And so we're completely out of time, and I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I really want to encourage you guys to go and pick up this book. Make sure you get, I suggest getting both Audible and the hard copy so you can go through both. Listen to it in your car, pick it up when you get home, and just continue to do that, because this is a book that will change the Christian world if Christians actually read it. So make sure you read it. You won't regret it. Make sure to get it picked up. Follow Pastor Kelly Stickel. Also, My City Care Church. If there's any pastors listening right now, you can go to My City Care, mycitycare.ca. That's right. .ca. They have care packages for church to follow. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you same time, 11 a.m. Mountain Time. God bless you.
Thrive is only made possible by the generous donations of people like you. 100% of your donation goes towards ministry efforts. Call today and make a significant impact in the lives of Canadians. Through your financial investment, you are a missionary to the world. Phone lines will remain open for a limited time. Connect with us now by calling 1-800-815-6513 or visit miraclechannel.ca/thrive to leave your comments, prayer requests, and praise reports. Together, let's thrive.